Please consider supporting Black Women United YEG for the protection and advancement of black women and girls in Alberta. You can learn more about them at bwunited.ca. They are always looking for donations and volunteers. So please, again, support Black Women United YEG for the protection and advancement of black women and girls in Alberta. Again, that website is bwunited.ca.
Well, hey there, it's Zach, all the way from Chesapeake, Virginia. Creative Control happens to be my favorite podcast. I value Vish's insight and his ability to balance humor with in-depth conversation while occasionally dipping into serious topics. Regardless of whether I've heard of the guest or not, or however long Vish has known them, you really do get the feeling that the two of them have known each other for a long time, and I walk away from every episode feeling like I gained something. I think that's testament to how good of a journalist and conversationalist Vish is. He has a real skill of opening people up. I also enjoy the spicy and lighthearted ribbing Vish does with his guests from time to time. Oh, and while I have you, did you know that for just $6 you can subscribe to the Creative Control Patreon and get access to all kinds of bonus content? And for $10, Vish will mail you one of his t-shirts. And hey, that peachy shirt is pretty cool. Anyway, enjoy the episode and doot-doodaloo-doo. Oh wait.
Nick Thorburn is a talented songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, soundtrack composer, filmmaker, producer, and singer based in Los Angeles, California. Originally from Vancouver Island in Canada, Thorburn first came to prominence in the band The Unicorns, which were initially active between 2000 and 2004. A year after they broke up, Thorburn formed Islands, whose longest-lasting lineup also includes brothers Evan and Geordie Gordon, and Adam Hafferty. On June 21st, 2024, Elf Records released What Occurs, which is the 10th album by Islands, and it prompted Nick to return to this show to discuss whether or not it concludes a trilogy, why he chose to make an album on Vancouver Island for the first time, and also its unique live off-the-floor recording style, a bad basketball injury, and air guitar, paraphrasing John Lennon or Stevie Wonder and Pusha T, conceptual themes on the new album, and David Geffen's Jackson Pollock, whether or not Islands has reached its end, the pros and cons of running a Patreon crowdfunding initiative, uncertain future plans, and much more. A part of the Lionsgate Sound Network with the support of listeners like you who follow and subscribe to this listener-supported and donor-driven podcast. Spread the word about it, leave nice reviews and ratings on your podcast platform, and make flexible monthly donations at patreon.com/creativecontrol, which is the primary and most reliable way for podcasters like me to make a living, and where a monthly subscription of $6 American or its currency equivalent means you can access every single episode of this show in its entirety, which is not the case without that subscription. All amounts are welcome, of course, but if you or someone you know wants to hear every single episode of the show, please visit patreon.com/creativecontrol and become a monthly $6 subscriber. By the way, you save money on the annual subscriptions as well somehow. You get a discount. So keep that in mind as well. Anyway, more info at patreon.com/creativecontrol. Thank you so much. With additional support from Blackbird Music, wonderful record store with bricks and mortar locations in Edmonton and Calgary, Alberta. But you can order records sent to wherever you live at blackbird.ca. Check that out. You can even get a copy of What Occurs by Islands. I'm sure you can. Again, more info at blackbird.ca. Plus in-kind support from independent businesses like Pizza Trocadero, The Bookshelf, and Planet Bean Coffee in Guelph, Ontario, and Granddad's Donuts in Hamilton, Ontario. This is episode 882 of Creative Control, featuring the lovely and talented Nick Thorburn from Islands, with your host, me, Vish Khanna. Hey, Nick, how's it going?
Hi, Vish. It's going. How are you?
Well, it's good to see you again. Where in the world are you there?
It's good to see you, too. I'm in Los Angeles, California.
Lovely. How are things going in Los Angeles as we're speaking, weather-wise, socio-politically, anything like that?
You don't want to know.
Is it rough?
It's great. It's great. It's bad. I mean, where is it not bad? It's bad. It's fine.
Yeah,
I try not to dwell on that. Yeah,
we can delve into how bad things are maybe as we go here. I want to start off on a positive note and congratulate you on this wonderful record. What Occurs? My wife and I were just talking about it today and how much she enjoys it as well.
Nice, thank you.
So it's helping us, if that makes any sense. You've brought some joy into the house during a strange time. And I was contemplating the last time you were on. You were on to talk about, and that's why dolphins lost their legs last year.
Yeah.
And then we, as I recall, we got into the notion that I don't know if it was deliberate or not, but you were sort of working towards a trilogy, and that began with Islamania. Then we have, and that's why dolphins lost their legs. And as we were talking, you spilled some beans. You said, "Oh, I got this other record in the can." And it's way more upbeat, but it's also kind of post-apocalyptic. I was like, huh. And I was listening, and you were describing, I think, What Occurs. So before I go much further, does your characterization of this album still stand? Do you feel that it's a post-apocalyptic trilogy concluding release?
I don't know that the trilogy, I kind of swerved a little on the trilogy thing. I think Islamania and Dolphins are definitely two sort of paired pieces where one is up and the other is down. And I guess you could argue that What Occurs is kind of the aftermath of all of that. It's kind of once the dust settles and you're sifting through the wreckage, that's where you become the listener of the new album, I suppose. You know, the song opens with the title track, What Occurs, which is setting the table, I guess, for that narrative, that the world is over, everything is changed, and what's next?
Yeah.
What occurs? You know, what's up? Yes.
So you say you swerved from the trilogy talk we had in 2023, but at the same time, you got, and that's why dolphins lost their legs. And then I thought about this new song about drowning a fish. I was like, what? This guy needs a trip to Marineland or SeaWorld or something like that. Is there any kind of thematic connection between? I know what you're saying. The other two stand together. You do feel like this is connected to them in some way, though. What Occurs, I mean, the album.
Well, it's an Islands record filled with songs that I wrote, so I suppose there's going to be some connective tissue. Well, I think that's a big connection.
Yeah.
I wasn't consciously extending the material on Dolphins. You know, these do feel... when I'm writing songs, they come in bursts, and they come in like chunks, and so I'll have dozens of songs, and some won't really be the right fit for one album, but I'll sort of earmark it for the next album. I'll say, okay, well, what's the cohesive kind of glue here for this record, and what works with it and what doesn't. And then so some songs might predate songs on the previous record, but they just don't really find a home until they're ready. And so in that sense, there's like a conceptual, through line for a record. Every song sort of relates to one another and relates to the project on a whole. But as far as drown a fish, I mean, I guess like there's a motif there. I wasn't even aware of that. Well, and dolphins aren't fish, Vish. You should know this.
They're mammals.
Dolphins are mammals.
They're mammals. I know all about the dolphins. Trust me. I'm just saying, if for the layperson, fish and dolphins share many physical characteristics and often the same kind of home, if not the exact same kind of home. So I object to your argument on some level. However, I will acknowledge, yes, not fish.
Okay, good. As long as we're clear on that.
Sorry, I just heard the dolphins thing and then the fish thing, and it just occurred to me. I'm being a bit silly about it. I think the last time you were on, we also talked about how islands as a name has become almost an inadvertent catch-all for some of the themes that ensue on records, like about returning to the sea and whatnot. But you, I believe, as I recall, you sort of suggested it was subconscious. It's not, you're not some, you're not begging to play a cruise ship. You're not, drawn to live in the ocean, per se.
I'm definitely not drawn to live in the ocean. Maybe next to it. I don't want to live. I'm not looking to live subaquatic life, and I don't want to be on a cruise ship. That sounds dreadful.
It seems like everyone gets sick on the cruise ships. That's what I hear.
Yeah, it just also, it's like, why would you want to? I don't understand this desire to be on a boat, sort of like captive on a boat where you can't leave, and then I guess you're just supposed to go to the buffet table and the swimming pool with the basketball court in the swimming pool or something. I guess that's kind of cool for like a day or two, but a 2-week cruise sounds like a nightmare.
It does to me too. To be trapped, and the notion is you're free. I am free of my daily domesticity, but you're also trapped. Yeah. You're trapped in the ocean, I think. And also, I can't swim. So I would be fearful the whole time.
Oh, wow.
Although I think,
that's bad.
I think even if you can swim, if your cruise ship goes down, you're in trouble. That's what I think.
Well, you're not a woman or a child, so you're definitely fucked.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You're not getting...
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad we ended on that, or wrap this up on a cheery note, the notion of being in the ocean. One of the distinctions that you were making the last time we spoke, and I see that it's still the case for this album, is that it is a bit of a reaction to how, and that's why Dolphins Lost Their Legs was made, and that it was a fairly remote... I don't want to mischaracterize this. Let's put it this way. Dolphins, it was less people in a room working together, and you, at the time, as I recall, you said, but for the next one... totally different. We're all going to be in the room together. We're going to work on songs together. And then I get the materials for this, and that seems to be the case. But not only that, songs from scratch almost. Is that right, Nick?
Well, what we did was we went to Vancouver Island, where I grew up. So that was this kind of, not an experiment, but it was this, I wanted to see what it would feel like to be making this record at home, a place I haven't lived in 25 years. So that was kind of this interesting setting for me, and for the band, just a beautiful place, right? And I had the songs, but yes, Dolphins was this kind of belabored, gestating project with a lot of tinkering and a lot of like incremental changes and recording processes or whatever. And then I think this was a real reaction, a knee-jerk reaction. I wanted to make a record that was immediate and involved this band, this amazing band that of Evan and Geordie and Adam, who as the four of us have been playing together for 10 years when we got into the studio. Adam joined in 2013. And so we'd had 10 years of being a band and touring a fair number, not extensively, but we're pretty road tested. And so we had a shorthand, we had a language, and especially with Evan and Geordie being brothers, there was that added almost telekinetic kind of connection that they could drop into. And so I thought, why I have this amazing band. Islands has become this band of brothers in a sense, and why not accentuate that? And obviously with Dolphins, like that was a result of Evan and Geordie living in Canada and COVID, and Islands is a fragmented kind of thing. It's a project and a band. It is a band, but it is also this extension of my own writing.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to marry the two. I'm trying to honor what Islands can be, which really there are kind of no limits to what it can be. And I want to make sure that remains, because Islands has had many permutations over the years and will continue to. Now, I also want to honor how important the members are as well. And so going up to Canada and making this record with them all in the room, sitting in a circle facing each other, I'd play the song for them. And I also had a really bad basketball injury. I had this separated shoulder the week before I left to come up to Canada to record. I play like twice weekly pickup games, and this new guy had like something to prove or something. And 5 minutes into the first game, there's a loose ball and we're both running for it. And he just kind of hip checks me and slammed so hard into my shoulder. I just collapsed on the ground in an intense pain that I've never felt before. Oh, no. And all these other guys, tough guys, are like, oh, it's just a stinger. You'll be fine. It's just don't worry about it. It happens all the time. And I was like, this doesn't feel like, my arm can't move. This doesn't feel good at all. So I drove myself to an urgent care with one arm and got an x-ray. I was like, yeah, this is a separated shoulder.
Oh my God.
This is a football injury. This is what happens like when football players land on you. And so I was in a sling, unable to lift my arm, move my arm. And it was my, guitar playing arm. It was my my left side.
Your recording arm.
No, yeah. So I'm left-handed, but it was my left hand, but I play righty. Oh. So yeah, just as a result, being a young kid around in high school, wanting to play music and having punk friends who had guitars and like playing on their guitars, I just had to learn. It was all new to me, so it didn't matter whether I was playing left or right.
Nick, I still play air guitar left-handed. Like I only have ever played air guitar left-handed. I'm not a professional air guitarist, but when I'm sort of pretending to play guitar, it's always left, but I actually play right. Like I'm sorry, I'm pointing to some of my guitars behind me here. And I play right. So that's weird. And
do you think it's because you practice in front of the mirror?
Oh, like when I was a kid or something? Or do I ever?
Yeah.
No, I never.
With air guitar.
I mean,
I almost moved.
I don't think so.
I actually, the world champion air guitarist, he had a house for sale for rent, I should say, in Echo Park. And I was about to rent it one time. It was like the cottage attached to his house. It was this beautiful, had like a studio space in the basement. And he was good. He ended up pulling the rug out and gave it to some German couple that were willing to pay $500 more a month. And so he kind of fucked me over, but he was like the world championship air guitarist, and he was an Islands fan. And he said the record Asleep and Forgetting got him through his divorce. And he left the main house and was living in this like side house listening to this breakup record. And I'm assuming playing air guitar along to it, although there's not much air guitar on that. Or not much guitar on that. Is
it, you just referred to that. How often have you recorded air guitar?
I usually have a guy that comes and does it. I'll pay him so that his name isn't on the credits.
Right.
So he's uncredited, but I know not that guy. That guy I had a really big falling out with when he gave the little cottage to a German couple.
Right. And could you tell that he'd done well by the air guitar? Did he have a fancy air conditioner, a lot of air purifiers, an air fryer, perhaps?
Well, I didn't get to look in the main house, but he did have a giant poster of Air Bud, the movie. So I can only assume that I was a fan of cinema and a fan of basketball. And going back to basketball, so I had this bad injury.
Yes.
And I'm going up to Canada to record, and I'm kind of freaking out because I have no mobility, and I don't know how I'm going to play. Like, we're doing this live record, and the whole thing was like no overdubs, and like, I want to get this, we're a band in a room. And so I was really freaking out, and I couldn't move it. I couldn't even it was too soon to do physical therapy or anything. And so what happened was we were in a circle, and I had to like prop my elbow up on these books and sit sit down and prop my elbow up on these books so that my hand could be in that position without having to move it. So that was an added, it always works out that way, that, the world is just, there's always something getting thrown at you to test your mettle. But we managed to do it, and we made this record that felt exactly what I wanted to do. It was very alive. It was very natural, and it was the sound of 4 people in a room, and oftentimes with a microphone in the room too, singing as well. So there was a lot of bleed.
Yeah.
The amps and the drums were all kind of bleeding into each other, and we were just embracing that, as a reaction to the record that came before, which was a lot of minutia and, a lot of just gradual, like I said earlier, just tinkering. And so it was a real palate cleanser, I guess. And you got to make these records every once in a while. I think it's important especially if you're doing things live, it's important to feel a song from start to finish.
2 quick follow-ups. I wonder if your shoulder has fully healed. And secondly, have you been back on the court for these pickup games, or were you scarred for life and never to return?
The shoulder still gives me some trouble. It's been about a year. I haven't been super great at the physical therapy stuff with it.
Yeah.
I got some stretches and stuff to do, and I'm bad at that stuff. If something's boring to me, I just have a hard time motivating.
Yeah.
But playing basketball is not boring to me. It's an incredibly satisfying outlet. And so I do play still twice a week. I didn't come back until I think October. Yeah, late October. So I took 5 or 6 months off basketball to heal. And I'm definitely I've had injuries over the years, like broken nose. I mean, a fracture, but a fracture is a break, but fractured pinkies, like all sorts of things that slowly chip away at my confidence and my aggression, I guess, my confidence in driving to the basket. So as I get older, I'm getting more interested in just hanging out on the perimeter more. But, the game has gotten a lot more aggressive, too, that I play in. The people have gotten younger, and they're more muscular. And so I'm starting to maybe feel like I've got to find a new group to play with, because I'm just trying to have fun. It's like a creative exercise. I'm not trying to get hurt anymore.
No, I understand. Is there anyone in the game that you've been playing, besides, by the sounds of it, Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes? Is there anyone we would know? Because it's rough. Because those games, that movie was. I recently rewatched White Men Can't Jump, and it's pretty intense. Anyway, is there anyone we would know in those games? Just like musicians or anyone?
It's mostly. Well, it's changed a lot over the years. It's definitely more of an entertainment. It's less music based. But people have come in for one-offs, like who's really good? The drummer from Vampire Weekend he played once. He was really good, surprisingly. Not surprisingly, but
you just don't know. It's unassuming,
you don't know.
Right? I mean,
yeah. There's been, but it's mostly more like director types, I guess. Maybe less.
Oliver Stone.
Oliver Stone he's terrible, but Sharon Stone, actually, because she's got handles. Yeah.
I didn't mean to reveal anything. You hear about this. There's for those of us who ever followed Gary Shandling, he would famously have these pickup games in his house, and a bunch of famous people would play, and it sounded like they took it very seriously. And I take it seriously. No, I play basketball every couple of days, but just with my son, who's getting better than me.
That's nice.
He's legitimately beat me a couple times this year, which I'm not happy about.
1-on-1?
Yeah, we play kind of not full court. We play at a local school, so they've got a full court, but then they've got a couple of half courts. They've got a couple of full courts, but they're half. You know what I mean? Like they're that way. So we play 1-on-1 full half court. So I can get my reps in, my running in, and all that kind of stuff. And he's just getting taller and more aggressive. And Yeah, he credits me. He did really well. He played his first year of organized ball, and like the last game he played, he got 36 of his team's 55 points. Like he's doing well, and like triple doubles all over the place. Like, you know, I mean, he's good. And so I'm not bragging, but I'm proud of him. He credits me with teaching him, because at first I was like, I couldn't, you know, beat an 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old consistently. I would let him win because he's got a chip on his shoulder if he can't beat me, and he gets no confidence. So I let him beat me a couple times. But then he gets smug. Ha ha! I'll kick your ass. I'm like, what? All right. And then I just smoke him. Anyway, now he's legitimately beating me, is what I'm saying. And
cool.
Yeah, it's just a very funny kind of turn of events that this came up in your bio. I saw this basketball injury, and I was hoping we could talk about it, because I'll tell you, Nick, you know, you and I did a relatively extensive tour once of the States. You and the band Human Highway, me with the Magic, road managing, whatever, driving them around. I do regret not bringing a basketball. I don't know why. I've just had this fleeting thought of tours. And why didn't I bring a basketball? Any tour I've been on, why didn't I bring a basketball? Like, there's always nets. There's nothing to do. Should have brought a basketball. Do you ever bring a basketball on tour?
Are there always nets? I don't ever bring a basketball on tour. There were early days of Islands where we would bring a soccer ball on tour, which at gas stations in rural areas can be good for just stretching the legs and stuff, kicking the ball around. I feel like a basketball is a little trickier because I don't know. I don't see that many courts, I guess. A lot of things would have to line up for you to park, have some time. Oh, there's a court. I've got the right shoes on. Also, none of my band members play.
So this is what I'm saying.
Basketball.
I wish I had, and I wish it would come up organically. Oh, Vish plays ball. I'll play ball with Vish. We could have played in Austin, or I remember watching an Oklahoma City game when we were in Norman, Oklahoma, in a bar on the TV. Like, this would have been that would have been Westbrook, Durant, you know, that Harden, I think, everyone was on the team, I think, at that point. So anyway, I'm just saying, you have a basketball brother in me. Did you ever play that pseudo celebrity Pop Montreal basketball thing that used to occur? Have you ever done that?
No, I don't even know about it.
They were doing it there for a while. I remember one year I wrote to you're friendly with Daniel there, the guy that runs the thing?
Sure. Yeah, we go way back.
Yeah, so I remember writing him to try to insinuate myself into the thing, but I don't think I was famous enough at the time, or never, ever. I'm not famous enough to play in the. They're like, well, we'd have to bump Ja Rule. I don't know who was in the game, but like, whatever. It was just a thing. I'd like to play more, but anyway, all I'm saying is next time we cross paths, if your shoulder's up for it, and my son's around to back me up, love to play 2-on-2 or something.
Let's do it. I'll cross you up, man. I'll smoke you. You don't want this smoke.
You kind of, I think, inadvertently enumerated a few milestones. 25 years since you lived in Canada, on Vancouver Island.
Yeah.
10 years of playing with the current version of Islands. 10th album. I just wonder if any of so those are milestones that people usually celebrate. Do you think consciously or subconsciously your impulse to be like, I want to go back home to where I first sort of got into making music, and if you're anything like me, the earliest experiences you had playing music were with your friends organically. There was no overdubbing. You were just working on stuff together, and then eventually you'd have songs, and maybe if you had enough of them, you'd make an album. That is an innocent time before you figure out, studios, you can do bed tracks, you can fix everything. Like that's an innocent time. Is there any part of you in making the call, let's go back to where I'm from, let's work with Corin Fox, I think, a friend of yours from those days, right? I think, is that right?
He's actually a friend I met through Richard Reed Perry from Bellarcast and Arcade Fire. Yeah. So I didn't know him before. I think I'd met him once before, but he's from Ottawa actually, but moved to the island. I made a
7-inch single with him many, many years ago.
Oh, no way.
In his house. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, cool.
Yeah. It's not the studio's not in his house anymore, is it?
It is. It is attached. It's adjacent to his house, and he lives in this like cottagey kind of. You just feel like you're in a little garden.
Is it Courtney or what's the name?
It's
of the
Cumberland,
place?
yeah. Cumberland, which is a sort of a bedroom community of Courtney, I guess they would say.
Right. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
I diverted myself. My point is, do you feel consciously or subconsciously something was a beacon for you to like, I kind of want to vaguely commemorate. Sorry, I don't think you've done this, and I'm already second guessing this question, but do you think there's any part of you that's like full circle moment, going back home, making records in an impulsive sort of way with my friends, all of these milestones kind of circulating? Was any of that conscious, or am I just bringing this to your attention now?
No, there was a degree of that being a conscious decision. Definitely kind of a return and a sort of full circle, an encapsulation of like where I'd come from and what I'd done. And I think with the 10th album and, coming up on 20 years next year of the band being a band, it did feel like, yeah, there was something kind of wistful and nostalgic about it without too much like looking back. But that's in there too. I think that's in the songs as well, this kind of reflection, I guess. But the thing is with, the Unicorns, I met Alden, the other member of the Unicorns, in high school, and we like had little bands and stuff. We never really got to record. We just didn't have access to that kind of thing. But I did have like the family computer with a program called Cool Edit Pro. And so my real first experience with making music, with writing songs, was partially like a very personal, solitary experience using the computer as a studio. So it wasn't like I was doing like 4 tracks, like in the, setting up a mic in the jam space. It was like grabbing the little computer mic and singing into that, and like making sampling a Clash song, the drums from a Clash song, and like, with whatever like limited means I had, because I didn't have any gear. I didn't have a MIDI keyboard. So it was very primitive, but it was definitely using the studio as an instrument. And as someone who's not trained, an untrained musician, I'm always approaching things kind of from the side like that, obliquely a little bit, I guess, where, it's not from a craftsmanship perspective, I guess.
So you bring all this up, I assume, to follow what I'm saying, but in a nutshell, you were feeling reflective on some level with these songs, making this album. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, definitely. Okay.
And do you have any perspective now on what spurred that on? Was it simply the sort of temporal circumstance of like, wait, all of these kind of things are swirling around. These milestones are kind of swirling around. What does it mean? Maybe I should quasi-celebrate this in a sort of subtle way.
There was no real guided hand for any of this stuff. I feel like the way the world works, especially for me, is one foot goes in front of the other.
Yeah.
And you just suddenly find, it's almost like automatic writing or something. You just kind of put pen to paper, you put foot to the ground, and you lift your head up, and suddenly you're at the tree that you wanted to climb. It's a very, not to be too whimsical about it, but those things were kind of guiding factors, but they all just kind of, Richie was like, there's this grant you can get to record in BC where you can make a record, and they'll help, this grant through the province will help finance it.
Yeah.
And so that was like, oh, that's an interesting idea. BC, I could make a BC record. I've never made in all my years. I'm from here. I could make this BC record. And then Richie connected me with Corwin on the island. And, I can make a record really close to where I grew up, and like kind of go back, see what it's like to be kind of back in this setting, in this environment where music kind of first revealed itself to me.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I'd set out with that goal, a bullet point of here's how I'm going to do this. It just started to happen, and I just kind of went with it.
I interrupt this episode of my own show for a brief thank you for hearing my call to support me and my work on Patreon. We have seen a lot of growth in Patreon support over the last little while, which is amazing because that's my primary source of income these days. And I love doing this job that I invented for myself a whole lot. Creative Control is a listener-supported podcast. Do podcasters receive any streaming royalties from podcast platforms? No, not any. Does podcast advertising pay the bills? Not for a show at this scale, no. Do all podcasters get paid by companies for their work like some celebrities do? No, most of us do not. We do this work to support our communities and because we love it. So what's the most reliable source of income for podcasters like me? Crowdfunding platforms like Patreon. So if you love Creative Control with Vish Khanna and want to see it continue, please see the notes in this episode. Click on the link that takes you to my Patreon and its different donation tiers with various incentives and benefits, and support me and my work today. Thank you again so much. I appreciate the circumstantial nature of all this. To follow up on what I was just asking about, can we home in on a song called Avoid for a moment?
Yeah.
Sorry, and just so people understand, I'm saying void, which may or may not be a play on avoid, like avoidance, I don't know, but it's called Avoid. Actually, before I delve too much further into this, Nick, I don't know if you remember the last time, or maybe I don't know, it was Islanmania or the Dolphins record, somehow we wound up riffing on John Lennon, just talking about him and maybe his influence as a songwriter. And then I'm listening to Avoid, and the first couple lines are, "Time, it has a funny way of moving on. I was dreaming of the past before you met me." And that song, Jealous Guy by John Lennon, is on my mind a lot these days because I recently introduced my hip-hop loving son to the Pusha T album that just came out not too long ago, and it's got this song that samples Stevie Wonder singing Jealous Guy, blah, 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 blah. Is that a quote? Are you quoting John Lennon there?
No comment. No, first of all, John Lennon, good guy. You know, the thing with songwriting is you're flipping up all the lights. Like, I'm kind of dusting the corners of the room. And yeah, the song, I'm not sitting down and going, okay, now I'm going to quote this song that's kind of in the same thematic world. It's just, I'm not trying to sound fantastical or make it sound mysterious, but songwriting is extremely mysterious. It's the closest thing to a religion that I think I have, or a prayer, or communing with a higher power. And I was raised religious, but I have zero belief. You know, it keeps me up at night, actually.
What was your, if I may pry, what was your religious background?
Pentecostal. No, just kidding. Catholic. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to pry. I'm just curious because I tell you, dollars to donuts. If someone comes on the show and tells me they're no longer religious, it's because the next revelation is that they were Catholic. Catholic, if you will. Yeah. And I will say, I didn't mean to home in on Lennon particularly. I just thought, actually, here's what I thought. Is Nick trolling me? Because I feel like we talked about John Lennon quite a bit. Now he wrote a song quoting him, and I thought, I'm like John Hinckley now. I'm like, Nick's talking right to me. I'm crazy. No, let's get, I didn't mean to divert us. I think you have a tendency to pay a little bit of homage to stuff going on in culture, particularly every once in a while I hear references to other songs in your music, and I think it's just you are a devout music lover, to follow up on what you were saying, and I think it just seeps out of you sometimes. For sure, and I think it's all very conversational, you know. Songs talk to each other and across time, and it's a beautiful thing. And obviously going back to hip-hop, and that Pusha T sample, like, that's an example of songs talking to each other, and I think that's kind of part of what makes it so magic. Yeah. So can we just home in on this song Avoid and its references to time and temporality in relation to what we were just talking about. Is this something of a centerpiece in terms of your... I'm sorry, I'm speaking a bit out of turn here, and I may be neglecting another song or two, but it is one that seems to delve into the passage of time, and I think that's what we were kind of just talking about.
Right.
Well, let's just go with this. What inspired that song, Avoid? And do you feel like it is saying something in particular about your relationship to time and maybe your band's existence, these sorts of things? Or is it something totally different?
Well, I probably have 3 gears as a writer: time, love, and death.
Yes.
And I think Avoid is probably talking about all 3 of those things. And it feels like those things are all related.
Yeah.
And in the song, they certainly are. It was a dark time when I wrote that song. It was the last song I wrote for the record, actually. Probably only wrote it a month before going up to record. And it was just sort of involuntarily kind of came out through a little bit of emotional turbulence in my life, I guess. And and I also quite literally fainted getting my getting some blood work done. And it was a very scary, sort of lonely, isolating feeling, like passing out and waking up with these nurses and doctors standing around me. And it felt like a glimpse into the lights, going out for the last time, I guess.
Oh man, Nick, are you doing okay now? I'm sorry to hear this.
Thanks. No, I'm good. I'm better than ever. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's something a savvy interview subject would say during an interview to make sure that everything's on the up and up. So kudos to you on that.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And kudos to you for asking. I think got to do a wellness check. No, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah.
I think I'm operating right now in a duality because I consider you a friend, and I also just wanted to check in the midst of
Likewise.
the contextual interview that we're having very professionally. Very professionally, we're doing this interview, but I am concerned about you as a person, if that makes sense.
It does, and I appreciate your concern. Thank you.
Yeah.
And things are good.
Okay. There's also, I think, you have a flair for societal critique, and a couple of songs stuck out to me in this regard. A few, actually. On the internet, maybe, quite obviously. And again, that's one where I thought, oh, there's maybe a little bit of the post-apocalyptic stuff where people have these pithy / whiny commentary, maybe about climate change or what have you. That occurred to me anyway. But I want to talk about art a little bit. I think the last time you were on, we also talked about commerce and art. I think it was in the context of the writer's strike that was occurring. You got a couple songs here that I think are linked. David Geffen's Jackson Pollock, and then the short song that follows it, Hang. First of all, am I correct? Those are kind of interconnected pieces?
Yes, I think, again, when I set out to write each of those songs, I wasn't making that connection. I wasn't thinking, oh, this is going to pair nicely with that. They just happened to pair,
Okay.
So, but yes, whether I intended it consciously or not, they are connected, and that's why they sit next to each other.
Can you tell us a little bit about what inspired those songs, maybe the story within them?
Yeah, well, I think with songwriting, and in recent years, I've gotten more into different forms of writing that involve more storytelling. And I think it was a mode I wanted to get more into. And I think with this record, it's more than before, I think. I'm trying to use these songs almost like they are different stories in a collection. So David Geffen is actually a pretty old song, though. Like, it's been kicking around for years. I've always, whenever I would do solo gigs, little pop-up kind of one-offs for comedy shows or art shows, or just like things where I'm just like a guest coming out to do a couple songs, benefit shows, I would pull that one out because it's telling a story. So it's kind of, I'm able to just let it hang without much instrumentation or ornamentation.
Yeah.
And it's obviously a critique of the ruling class, or it's my like cheeky just way to sort of interrogate the world of billionaires who collect art, I guess. I don't know. But it's supposed to be fun and just like a story. And it's a story that I'd heard, that I'd seen in some headline, that a piece of art belonging to David Geffen, that was a Jackson Pollock, had gone, quote unquote, gone missing.
Oh.
In Malibu.
Huh.
And I loved the combination of those names together. David Geffen's Jackson Pollock. It just sounded so fun to me. So I read that and I immediately said, okay, that's got to be the title. That's just such a fun combination of names and words and sounds. And then I'm going to tell this story about the guy who, quote unquote, found, it fell off a truck. The common way to find things is when they fall off trucks. So I just told this story about this art thief, basically, who's trying to sell this painting. And it's in one way, it's very literal. This is what the song is about. It's about this art thief who's trying to get rid of this painting, and he gets caught and he makes a getaway, but the car is not, he doesn't have a fast car, so he doesn't get very far. That is not a lyric, but that should be, because that rhymes.
I will say, in the context of processing this album as being post-apocalyptic and the notion of someone stumbling upon a piece of artwork belonging to a millionaire, all due respect to Mr. Geffen, in your song, I assumed he was dead. I assume he didn't make it through the apocalypse, and now just the detritus of all these billionaires, which is kind of circulating, and people are kind of finding it, and those who are still around we're meeting with the scavengers to be like, what do you got? So I don't know why, but for me, it became this Mad Max style scene where everything was fucked, but people were just starting to be like, well, what happens when people die? To my left here is my record collection, and I've been thinking about this. Like, I have all this stuff, and I tell my son, my son will be like, where do I put my Kendrick Lamar records? I go, well, under L. He's like, not K? I'm like, no, L. Should be under L. Anyway, all of this is yours, and I just think, like, where is he going to begin if he really wants to listen to these records? And is it self-indulgent to even own them? I'm going to, unfortunately... Here's the thing, Nick. I'm out on dying. I'm not going to do it. I've already decided. Some people make choices. They go skydiving, bungee jumping. Yeah. They die. I've decided I'm not going to do any of those. And
you're
so
staying alive.
I'm going to hang on to these records. I'm just kidding. My point is, that's what I thought. What happens when even these powerful people are going to go? And if there is an apocalypse, their shit is just going to be everywhere. People are going to... Sorry, do I sound demented? What do you make of my reading of this?
Well, you definitely sound demented, but that's we like demented. So, I think life is hard, and get your kicks where you can, and records are pretty, and they look nice, and they sound good, and it feels good, and life is hard. So enjoy what you can while you can, especially if you're not hurting anybody. I think it's okay. I like your read you're reading the record as more of a concept album than it is. I think there's always a conceptual element for me, and for anyone, I think, making a record. It's a collection of songs. They should kind of be in concert with one another. The songs should be connected in some way. Yeah. I suppose you want some connection to make it feel intentional. So in a way, the songs are all related. I think they might be more second cousins than kissing cousins, like you've interpreted. But I enjoy that that's a post-apocalyptic scene. I'm not telling a story from beginning to end, I guess, in this album. It's kind of just feelings. It's kind of more expressionistic, I suppose, with the colors.
It is, if I may, not to second guess you, for you to say there's not a narrative when you begin the album with a song called What Occurs, and you end the album with one called The End. Am I correct?
You are correct, yeah.
I think what you just said is a bunch of horseshit. I think this is a conceptual narrative. It begins with what occurs might as well be Once Upon a Time, as the lead song, and then it ends with The End. I want to go back to Hang, though, for a second, because I do think that's connected to David Geffen's Jackson Pollock, and I'm just going to read it, if that's okay with you. It's very short.
Yeah.
Because it's a short song.
I love hearing my words spoken back to me. So
please don't blush.
Savor this.
Please don't blush. But I'm going to do this because I do this from time to time, and often I find my guests appreciate hearing someone do some slam poetry version of their song. Mm-hmm. Here it is. Which way does the painting hang now? Is it upside down or the wrong way round? The truth is, it faces the wall. You're not supposed to see it at all. If I may, Professor, I want to tell you my reading of this.
Please.
I just wondered about this intangible time, where art is often intangible. Music, movies, everything, even books. I mean, I like physical. I like all the things I like are physical. I like the Olivia Newton-John single, Let's Get Physical. I probably own it. My point is, I wondered if this was some sort of comment on how we don't, historical artifact-wise, a lot of people don't have any. I just refer to my records. Many people don't have anything like this. They have their telephones, they have their computers, and whatever art these companies, deign to provide us and then take away often, that's all they got. They got no physical copies. So I thought about physical media and tangible art, but again, I don't know if that follows any kind of narrative connection between Hang and David Geffen's Jackson Pollock per se. Again, sorry to ask you to indulge in this, Nick, but what do you make of where I'm coming from with Hang?
I love it. And I always think your interpretation, the listener's interpretation, is going to be more interesting than what I could tell you. I mean, I think that's in there. I think, and because it's a prism, it's prismatic. I think you can see something in the song that I wasn't consciously trying to convey, but it is contained within the song because the song is connected to the universe. Like it is connected to your universe. It's connected to your experiences. That's what makes music, that's what makes songs so powerful and so deeply. I think the most moving art form that we have is that it's interpretive and it's subjective and it's emotional and it's time. It's a song beginning and a song ending, and the time in between that is infinite. And I think your reading of it is cool. I wasn't explicitly commenting about music being of how it's become less a physical media, and we don't, or you know what I mean? It's like all of these interpretations are valid. The song is the song now. It's no longer something I can control. So. Yeah, you're right. And that's a cool reading.
And Hang proceeds on the internet, which is the most intangible thing we've ever all had to reckon with. So, again, I know Nick said otherwise, but every song is in chronological order of some kind. You're supposed to listen to it. Don't shuffle. It's all one big story, I think, and that's my read of it. But again, I'm being facetious. I appreciate what you're saying, Nick, that some of this, I guess often when you're on the show, Nick, I end up asking you about intention. And it seems to me you're like, yeah, maybe, I don't even know. And I just want to say that's sort of, it doesn't perplex me in any way. I find it refreshing. And I also appreciate your openness to me even daring to try to tell you what I think of, where I think a song might have come from or went, I guess. So I just want to thank you for indulging me in this, what some might think of as silliness or whatever, impetuousness. Well, I don't know. Yeah,
it is I who feels indulged. It's getting to talk about these songs is exciting for me, and to feel like they have different points of interpretation is really a cool thing. I think, if I tried too hard to tell a story, convey a certain thing and explicitly tell you what I was feeling with a literal execution, I just don't think it would have the same impact. I think things being somewhat, I think mystery is the key to life. And I think having some unknown in there for you to dig around in and you to get your paws dirty with is what makes it yours as well as mine.
Yeah, it's a conversation of sorts, and I appreciate that. Just to start to wind us down here, I want to ask you about any future plans you have at the moment, whether that's touring or if you've thought about writing more songs, if you've already done that. Again, last time you were on, we had the scoop that this album, What Occurs, was already done. And so you shared that something was coming. So not asking you for more scoops, but if you got something to talk about, please share. Also within that, if people want to follow you, if you will, or keep tabs on your activities, order your records, any sort of web presence you want to cite today would be helpful. But let's begin with what's sort of next or coming up for you, Nick. What's going on?
Well, the last song is titled The End. So the book is, this book is closed. I don't know what the next book is going to be, but I don't know necessarily where I'm going. I finished telling a story, and whether that means Islands or this era of it or this phase, I don't know, but it feels, with all of these anniversaries I was talking about earlier, the 25 years and the 10 years, and it does feel like we're rounding a corner, and a pretty even kind of corner. So I don't really know what's next. And that's kind of exciting and scary and painful and depressing too. But for now, the record is about to come out, and I just want that record to live in the world as well it can. And I've got other dreams and hopes and plans that are it's too early to really say whether if my dreams can come true. But for now, I just have this Patreon that I started in February. That's been a really fun way to have this immediate kind of release, I guess, where I can either have a song that I'm working on at home that might not feel like it's got to go through the whole machinery. I can just do a cover song, or I can like fine tune a thing, or I have all these demos and unreleased songs, so many unreleased songs and bootlegs and all this weird ephemera. So it's sort of an excavation, I guess, and an examination in an archival kind of way. That's been really, really fun for me, and kind of sad too, because I go through down this memory hole and feeling nostalgic and stuff about the past. I've got a lot of stuff in the vault, so I've just been very frequently, 2 to 5 songs a week, just dropping new stuff or unheard stuff on the Patreon for $6.66 a month USD. You can have all that, and I know the subscription thing is problematic, and I don't think it's a healthy system.
Why is that? Sorry, as people know who listen to the show, I've just gone whole hog on it because I'm not. This is my way of doing things, and I will say, thus far anyway, it's really empowering, because I was quite scared of what to do, but people have in fact stepped up, and I've switched to a hybrid model. So every other episode is, you get the whole thing, and then the other ones, you just get an excerpt in the main feed, and you get, if you subscribe at $6 American, as you said, you get the whole thing every single episode. And I don't know, so far, I guess my only regret is I didn't think of this sooner. To value my work, I just didn't value my work, and I thought it was fine that I had other income streams. So sorry, tangent there. When you say it's problematic, what do you mean?
So yeah, to clarify, I mean more in the realm of music. I think for podcasts, it makes a great deal of sense. And especially the 2 episodes a week, one, you're doubling your workload, but having an episode that's for free and then one behind the paywall, I think is a really smart way to get people who are engaged to listen. I just really hope this episode is not behind a paywall, because I will be pissed off.
I don't know. I'm sticking to the randomness, so it's always every other episode.
It's a roll of the dice. Yeah. All right. Well, fingers crossed, because the people got to know.
Well, it's not. By the way, it's not that they don't hear nothing. I just, if for example, and this is getting very meta, I don't know at this point if it's going to be one of those. My point is, you still hear something.
Fucking better not be.
You just don't.
Yeah, but I feel like we didn't really get going until like 20 minutes in. You know what I'm saying?
But
maybe
I'm
you can
not
chop that
excerpting
down.
the first 10 minutes or whatever. I'm finding a chunk.
You find a highlight.
is interesting. In fact, this chunk might be in it. This might be part of the deal now. I don't know.
No,
but my point is,
no.
I'm trying to find an interesting. Basically, every time you seem to be like, "Aha, you are so smart, Vish." Wow, that's definitely the excerpt.
Sure.
Yeah.
You're just gonna have to pick and choose. There's gonna be so many moments like that.
So many moments when Nick is on the show. What is your Patreon moniker, or if you will, or whatever?
It's Nick from Islands.
Okay.
Patreon.com/Nick from Islands. But I go into the unicorns and weird. Like I had a side project with LP from Run the Jewels that never caught on, and so we had two. With his blessing, I put up 2 of our songs that we never really finished, but because we started a band at the same time he started Run the Jewels. He was like, my manager told me I need to start branching out, so I'm going to do this thing with this guy Killer Mike in Atlanta, and I'm going to do this project called Stepson with Nick. And we know we know how that shook out. But so it's a lot of these weird little like Forrest Gumpy kind of things, and it's really fun. But what I meant about the problematic nature of music being a subscription, there's just one. I think it puts a lot of pressure on the listener to keep paying a certain amount for my. I just think music should be, you want to hear it. I don't know. It creates a pressure on the listener, which I'm aware of as someone who is also a patron to things. I do get a notification when someone cancels. So it's this awkward kind of
it's completely
interaction.
Psychologically, my friends, I'm on a text thread with people who I consider the brain trust of me making my show. And they've made fun of me for being like, it's up. It's down. Oh my God. They're like, you're going to lose your mind stressing out about this thing.
Yeah.
But, it's because we came of age in a dislike culture, or metrics-based culture. So we're always like, I don't know about you, Nick, but I'm sure every once in a while you dip in to see like, how's my album doing? And then at the end of the year now, it's a fucking gong show of like, hey, thanks for streaming my album on blah, blah, blah. It got 1 million streams. I made 36 cents. The material conditions for people who make things or try to contribute to the cultural economy, I think when you say it's problematic, that's probably part of what you're talking about. The fact that we even all are in this position where we make things for giant companies who don't compensate us well, or in my case, at all. Like, it's a crazy system that a podcast person spends all this time making a thing and people do value it. I mean, that's what I've learned. That's the ego part of it is you put it up on Patreon, you're like, what the fuck? What if no one steps up here? And then they do. And you're like, okay, it's not gangbusters, but these 300-400 people, they're my people. And that's continuing to, and it also, I will tell you, and I'm not trying to sound immodest, every day it goes up a little bit. And to your point, sometimes people cancel. And sometimes I know for a fact that someone has signed on to hear the Kathleen Hanna episode, heard it, fucking bailed. And that's their choice. Like, I don't know what to tell you. My point is, we all bought into this system where people like you and me, or you in particular, no, you know what? Fuck it. I always undersell myself. I feel like I'm part of the thing. I'm part of it. I'm helping. Yeah. I'm part of the ecosystem. Yeah. And this is me finally being like, what have I done for 10 years? Just been like, hey, I don't value my own work, or you don't have to give me anything for it. I think there's a reckoning happening. I'm sure you started the Patreon thinking about the landscape of things as a musician. And what the hell do we do?
Yeah,
what the hell are we doing? Like, and I will say also, Nick, you're primarily focused on bonus stuff. Is that what you're saying? Like extra stuff?
It's kind of all sorts of things, but it's typically unreleased sessions and unreleased songs and demos and demos of songs that have never come out and home recordings. Like basically, like I'm releasing Nick Diamond's solo record, one song at a time, kind of thing. So it's a whole variety of things.
That was my breaking point, though, because the advice I was getting is do more extra stuff, and then you'll get more people on your Patreon. I'm like, but why? like, why not put a premium on the thing that I think is actually the final thing? Like, why am I spending 10? I still do it from time to time. I'll spend a little bit extra time with someone and we'll go into OT about whatever, but I don't do it as much. And I was also digging into, like, as you know, Nick, I've been interviewing people for 20 odd years. So I'd be like, here's my interview with David Yao from 2007. And it was, people were like, oh, cool. This is great. But then the other part of me was like, yeah, but I also make a thing that I should value now. So why not? I'm not suggesting this to you. I think musicians have a trickier thing. Because you want your album to be heard. And I want my show to be heard. Don't get me wrong. But I'm just at a point where I was like, I think the main thing I make is valuable and it warrants a subscription if people are able to do it. And if they're not, that's their choice. You know, it's a bit of letting the market decide. Sorry, it is a real ramble on my part. I apologize. I just want to say I've wrestled with the same things and what are we doing? And I made this decision with a lot of trepidation, and people are so lovely. Like, beyond the actual support, I will always write a thank you, and the love I get after that. Sorry, I've been meaning to do this for years. Love your show, love what you're doing. Like, the affirmation. It's not just financial; it's the connection with people who step up. Sorry, Nick. Does any of that resonate?
Oh yeah, for sure. That's a nice kind of bonus of doing the Patreon, is feeling this connection to the community. And you know, there's obviously always a parasocial component to that we all need to be a little wary of. But but I think it's cool to feel like it's a club, and as Scharpling said, we get it, they don't. You know,
we get it, they don't. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm wearing a Best Show shirt right now.
Oh, so amazing.
You can't see it. Hang on, Nick. Look, see?
Let's
I'm wearing
see
my Best Show shirt.
Boom. I love that.
I didn't even... Anyway, sorry. I feel like we should wrap up. And I went on a few tangents there, and it's my fault. I took up your time, Nick, and I deserve to be docked Patreon points. No, I hope you enjoyed yourself on this thing. I will link to your Patreon. Islands tour dates or anything at this point?
Nothing confirmed. Possibly some Vancouver Island dates in September, actually. Just to kind of honor the record. But aside from that, you know, we just toured last fall, so it felt a little premature to head back out. And touring that's a whole other conversation. We'll see. Yeah. But for now, the record is the record. If you want to hear it, you got to listen to it.
Yeah. If we can go out on a song from What Occurs, is there a song that you can select for us and tell us why it came to mind?
Well, the end feels like maybe because it's we talked about David Geffen's Jackson Pollock. We could listen to that, but the end, I think, it sort of crystallizes everything we've kind of been talking about. With where do you go from here when it's seems like it's all over, you know? So we could do that, or you know, we could do On the Internet as well. I'm easy. I don't know. I'm not good at deciding. I love them all. They're all my babies.
Okay, well, here's the thing. Yeah. I'm going to, if this helps you in any way, I'm going to play a little bit of a song to introduce this episode. And that can be any of the things you just mentioned. I've already blanked on which one you were leaning towards. Was it David Geffen, or was it? No, it was the end. So why don't I say this? Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening thus far. I don't know if you remember at the beginning of the show, you heard a little bit of David Geffen's Jackson Pollock as I was prattling on about Nick and how great he is and what we talked about. Now, though, I think as per Nick's selection, we're going to hear the final song on this album, and it's called The End. Does that seem okay to you, Nick?
That sounds good. Conversely, you could begin with The End.
Yes.
And end with David Geffen's Jackson Pollock.
Okay, that's really messing with the space-time continuum. But yeah, let's do it. Let's just do that. So
the listener's going to know, right? Because they'll already have gotten to this point in the episode. So they'll be like, we already know what they decided. But we don't know, you and I, do we?
No, we don't. I think we know now. We're going to hear David Geffen's Jackson Pollock right now from this wonderful and very infectious album. We didn't even talk about Boll Weevil and all these really fun, there's just really fun, catchy songs in this album. And it is upbeat. Here's not an example of that per se. This is David. Well, it is. I like it. It's clever. Fuck it. I'm going to stop talking. David Geffen's Jackson Pollock from What Occurs by Islands. Nick, no matter what happens, I hope this isn't the last time you appear on this show, and maybe not your own career trajectory notwithstanding. I appreciate you putting up with my tomfoolery and shenanigans. And thank you for being a guest on this show over the years and for being back on today. And I wish you the best luck in the future. Thanks again.
Thank you, Vish. It's always a pleasure.
I found David Geffen's Jackson Pollock. It fell off a truck near the beach. At least that's where I got it. Tried to move it for a record. $200 million. These jackals, these vampires, they offered me something much smaller. Abstract expressionist work, or whatever you call it. It was David Geffen's Jackson Pollock. But when I showed up, lifted my coat up to reveal the painting, pig suddenly rolled up, afraid that this might happen. I took out my box cutter, their faces slacking as it pushed against the canvas. They stepped down as I climbed back in what might have been the world's slowest getaway. But I still had David Geffen's Jackson Pollock. I still had David Geffen's Jackson Pollock. I still had David Geffen's Jackson Pollock. I still had David Geffen's Jackson Pollock.
There you go. David Geffen's Jackson Pollock by Islands from their new album, What Occurs. Thanks so much again to Nick Thorburn for returning to this show, this time for the 882nd episode of Creative Control, which is part of the Lionsgate Sound Network and is available wherever you get your podcasts. If you can't find an episode you're looking for, or if you want to learn more about me, please visit vishkhanna.com. Also, click on the hyperlink text that says follow Vish online to find me on social media stuff and other things. Most importantly, though, please visit patreon.com/creativecontrol to make a flexible monthly donation to keep me and this podcast going. You heard me and Nick talking about it, so I don't think I need to go on and on too much. Just to emphasize that $6 American or its currency equivalent, a monthly subscription at that rate gets you access to exclusive content, that bonus stuff we were just talking about, and also every single episode of this show since we've started this initiative is available at that $6 American tier. So if you're interested in supporting me and my show during this strange time for culture creation, and you'd like to keep this show happening and going, man, I can't thank you enough. It really does mean the world, and you can learn more about how to support me and the work I do and to access it at patreon.com/creativecontrol. Thank you so much again. Also want to thank the wonderful Alberta record store Blackbird Music, which has bricks and mortar locations in Calgary and Edmonton, Alberta, but you can access records, you can order them, shipped to your house via their website, blackbird.ca. Also want to thank independent businesses like Pizza Trocadero, The Bookshelf, and Planet Bean Coffee in Guelph, Ontario, and Grandad's Donuts in Hamilton, Ontario for their in-kind support for this show. Also want to thank my friend and Nick's friend, actually, Jim Guthrie. They've been bandmates in Islands and Human Highway and other things. Jim lends me some music for this show, and you can learn more about his work at jimguthrie.org. And finally, thank you so much for listening to this episode with Nick from Islands. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll subscribe to this podcast and leave nice ratings and reviews on your pod player, and tell your friends all about the show. Spread the word about it. Check out What Occurs by Islands as soon as you can. It's a great record. And I just want to say thanks again for your support of music and arts and culture and listening to this show. And I hope you'll check in with me for the next episode. Thank you. Bye for now.